He was tortured as a kid because his father was unwell, and he had taken this young boy well into the depths of hell, tied up in a basement and beaten close to death, wondering every day if this would be his final breath, witnessing the abuse inflicted on his mother by his father, wondering why he was still alive and why he should even bother. An ugly legacy his father left him in the scars upon his mind, and for all the rest of his life he'd live, there would be no peace that he could find. Images of abuse that would never go away, memories of all the horrible things his father had to say. He tried to leave it all behind, and so he almost drank himself to death. And when the alcohol almost took his liver out, he turned to drugs like cocaine or meth. He dressed like he was the picture of a man standing on success, but he never revealed the storm in his mind that made him feel a mess. Something from the abuse had infiltrated into his brain. He heard the voices running a negative commentary that made him feel insane. On and on they ranted at him. They would never leave him a moment alone. But this would be something he would keep hidden. It was a part of him unknown. He would try to recover from his addiction, but he traded one thing for another. He would spend a long time by the sickbed of the woman he loved, which was his mother. He dated beautiful women, and he often went south for a vacation. He'd come back tanned and handsome after some sunny recreation. But the voices in his head never gave him any quiet. On and on they ranted until he felt like it was a mental riot. It didn't matter how good he looked on the outside, because inside he was tormented. It wouldn't matter if he drank enough to make his brain one that was fermented. The voices never gave up the assault, forever telling him how little he was worth. And more than one time he would ask himself why he was ever given birth. They filled him with self-doubt, and they questioned everything he did. There was no way he could get away from them, and it was hard to keep them hid. At times his eyes would roll back in his head like he was having some sort of fit. And then he'd come back into the room and not seem to be aware of it. Gambling replaced his drinking, and he lost near everything he had. And every time I saw him, it seemed like he was so very, very sad. He relapsed to his drinking, but he fought his way back out. But time was passing by, and he would not be able to win each and every bout. And every time he fell in, it was much harder to come back. While the voices never gave him a break, he would never get some slack. The mental health hospital was trying to treat the voices while ignoring his addiction, as if the only thing he suffered from was a mental health affliction. They were prescribing him some benzos, which was just a dangerous thing to do, giving another addicted drug to a guy who was fighting addiction too. In a hospital with an addiction unit, but they couldn't seem to collaborate, as if they would only treat his mental illness while his addiction had to wait, as if his addiction could be ignored while his mental illness raged, while he became more desperate for escape from the voices that had him caged. A setup for destruction. They may as well have given him a loaded gun. He was fighting for his life, but this was not a fight he could have won. Not when the people who are supposed to help you can't be bothered to go the extra mile, when it's the mental health professionals who are really in denial, and in their arrogance they ignore a life-threatening illness he cannot fight, and so he succumbs to his addiction that finally snuffs out his inner light. And where is his vindication when the mental health system allowed him to die? They will never stand up and take responsibility. They will tell another polished lie, and the dollars will keep pouring in to a system that doesn't work, while the mental health system hide their lies deep inside the murk. And what about the people who knew him and cared about this person? I had to stand by and watch as your help only made his sickness worsen, while you would walk away and claim he just couldn't get any better, because you're the guys with all the titles and with all the little letters. When will you be held responsible for not treating the entire person? When will you ever pay for just allowing someone to worsen? When will you bother to learn how addiction affects a mental illness before your lack of concern causes someone else's loved one to descend into a death stillness?